Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. King Kong Luis Ortiz defeats Christian Hammer in a 10-round decision. Now, if we look at it and we're unbiased and honest about the fight that we saw, Luis King Kong Ortiz pretty much won the majority of the round. But you could see Luis King Kong Ortiz's age show visibly in this fight. In actually the last two fights, the last fight that Luis Ortiz had was against a Travis Kaufman. It went 10 rounds and he got the stoppage late in the fight. But the fact that it went 10 rounds with the Travis Kaufman, a guy you shouldn't be going 10 rounds with, and then with Christian Hammer you go the full 10 rounds, but you didn't get a late stoppage. It just shows that Luis King Kong Ortiz is not the fighter that a lot of people think he is. He's a very good fighter. He's a talented fighter, and he's won the most of these rounds. But against an Anthony Joshua, a Deontay Wilder, or even a Dillian White, the upper echelons of fighters, the champions, Luis King Kong Ortiz is going to struggle, because if you can't put these guys away on the lower tier, then the bigger guys, the bigger names, the harder puncher, the better fighters, they're going to hit you with some shots that are really going to rock you, stop you, and drop you. Luis King Kong Ortiz looked old in this fight. He didn't look sharp and crisp. Yes, his boxing was on point, but for Hammer to even win a few rounds in the fight was disappointing. The fact that Ortiz couldn't get him out of there was disappointing, because it's not like he's a welterweight, a middleweight, or anything else. This guy's a heavyweight, and it's almost expected, because these guys hit so hard that this guy has to get these guys out of here at a lower level. And the fact that he's not getting C-level fighters out of there makes me worried for Luis Ortiz, because if you look at it honestly and unbiasedly, he's not ready for an Anthony Joshua. Him calling out an Anthony Joshua does not prove anything. He's not winning fights in spectacular fashion. He's not building a brand to show people that, hey, I deserve these upper echelon fights, because he looks like a very old and worn fighter at this point, because he's not performing at that level. Going 10 rounds with C-level fighters is not the way to do it. Dillian White dropping Derek Chisora. What would they have said about Dillian White if he would have went a full 10 rounds with, a Christian Hammer? What would they have said about that? What if Anthony Joshua went a full 10 rounds with Christian Hammer? What would they have said about that? Or Deontay Wilder even? See, there's no excuse for this if you're supposed to be considered in the upper echelons. And that's why I always say Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Dillian White, these guys are in upper echelons of boxing. And Luis King Kong Ortiz is a very talented fighter, a very technical fighter, a very good fighter, entertaining fighter. But he's not as far as at the very top and peak with the elite fighters, because his age, because he's past his prime, and now Luis Ortiz looks old. Yes, he wants to fight Anthony Joshua. Yes, he wants to fight Deontay Wilder. But just because he's wanting to fight these guys does not mean that those are good fights at this point, because Luis Ortiz is past it. So if he fights Deontay Wilder next, then I'll say, at some point this year, then I'll say, there's no point in this fight, because Luis Ortiz is already done. He's already past his point. If he fights Anthony Joshua, Luis Ortiz is already past his point. He shouldn't be in the big fights, because he can't challenge these guys correctly. He's no more than a tune-up to these guys at this point. And I know a lot of people argue with me and disagree on it. And I like Luis Ortiz, but he's looking old out here. And we just saw from the fight that we just had against a Christian Hammer, a C-level fight, a guy with 5 losses, a guy who's been knocked out 3 times. And you realize that Christian Hammer has been knocked out 3 times in his career. And once he was knocked out by Tyson Fury. Now think about it like this. If people say Tyson Fury can't get Christian Hammer, is not a huge, hard puncher, but he knocks out Christian Hammer, but Luis Ortiz couldn't, what does that say about Tyson Fury? And what does that say about Deontay Wilder fighting him? You see, you have to be honest and unbiased. Marius Wack knocked out, Christian Hammer. And we already know who Marius Wack has been in there. He's lost to Jarrell Miller. Big baby cheeseburger. Let's be honest and unbiased. At this point, I can't blame Luis Ortiz for one of the biggest and best fights and paydays, because his career is pretty much done at this point, because he's going the distance with guys he shouldn't be going the distance with. He's in with guys he shouldn't be in with at this point. And he's in there for far too long. So at this point in his career, Luis Ortiz is not the same fighter. He's an old fighter, and it's showing a lot. Once again, unbiased as always, it's the Ibfp. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.